windows. We're going to check our steps going into the cab. They're properly mounted, secured, nothing that's going to cause us trip, slip, or fall. Our grab handles are properly mounted, secured. We're going to reach in here and grab this cable, and while we pull the cable, we're going to reach back here and open up the dog box. Watch your heads there, gentlemen. We're going to continue to work our way back. We're going to check our turn signal and four-way flasher. It's orange in color, it's not cracked or broken. We're going to check our dog box door. It's properly mounted, secured, not cracked or broken. The door seal is no abrasion, bulges, or cuts. We're going to look inside this inside this dog box and make sure we have at least a 5BC fire extinguisher that's properly charged. We're going to have 3 reflective triangles and spare electrical fuses. All right, we can go ahead and shut this door down. We're going to check our fuel tank. There's no signs of damage to the fuel tank. There's no signs of fuel leaks. The straps are properly mounted, secured. We've got rubber to metal and not metal to metal. We're going to check our fuel tank or fuel cap. Make sure it's properly mounted, secured. Make sure the chain and T-bar is in place and that the rubber seal is in good condition. We're also going to eyeball that fuel level. Make sure it matches the fuel gauge inside the cab. I also want to make sure that this fuel is green in color, not red. All right. One of the biggest things that gets missed on the fuel tanks is checking for leaks. All right. We can keep on moving back. We come to the back of the cab. We're going to make sure our DOT reflectors are properly mounted, secured. They're clean and visible. We're going to check our exhaust stack to make sure it's properly mounted, secured. No missing nuts or bolts. No signs of exhaust leaks. Our exhaust stack mount is properly mounted, secure with no missing nuts or bolts, no damage. Our tractor protection valve is properly mounted, secured, is not damaged. Our emergency and service lines are properly mounted, secured, no abrasion, bulges, or cuts. The electrical line is properly mounted, secured with no frayed wires. The hoses and the wires are not dragging the frame. We're going to work this all the way up to the cab. We're going to make sure that the electrical line is properly mounted and secured. We've got 7 pins for 7 holes. We're going to make sure our glad hands are properly mounted, secured. We're going to check our grommets, make sure they're in good condition. All right. So if you notice, what I did is, even though there's more stuff over here to be inspected, when I started these airlines, I finished them. All right. So if we come back over here and finish our tractor, we're going to check our frame rails and our cross members. There's no signs of damage, and they're not twisted or broken. No missing nuts or bolts. No illegal welds. We're going to check our drive shaft. It's not twisted. Universal joints are tight. My catwalk, steps, and grab handles, all properly mounted, secured. Nothing's going to cause a slip, trip, or fall. All right. We spin around. We're going to check our splash guard. It's properly mounted, secured. No signs of damage. I'm going to go ahead and do my headboard before I go down below. So I'm checking the headboard. There's no signs of damage, no excessive missing rivets. My clearance lights at the top are orange in color. They're not cracked or broken. My DOT tape on the front of the trailer is clean and present. All right. So with all that being said, where are we at?
We're at the axle.
We're at the axle. How many systems on every axle?
3.
What are those 3 systems?
The brakes, the suspension, and the wheel seals.
All right. So let's get back to what we talked about earlier. You have the option to say, I'm going to check this brake system exactly the same way I checked the previous brake system. All right. You have that option, but let me give you a warning. If you missed anything on that first brake system, you're going to miss it here as well if you do that. All right. So if you're not 100% sure, what should you do? Go ahead and inspect it. So if I'm standing right here, I can't see a brake system, but it's there, right?
Right.
All right. So I got 2 options. I can either get down and look at it, or I can look right over here at this other one. All right. And right there's the other one. Alright? So remember on the brake system we got airlines. And what should we, airlines are checked for properly mined secure, no abrasion, bulges or cuts, no signs of leaks. Airlines always run to the brake chamber, no signs of damage, no missing nuts or bolts. Brake chamber always activates the push rod and slack adjuster. There's no damage, no missing pins or keys. The push rod and slack adjuster always activates a set of my brake pads are 1/4 inch thick. They're square, not rounded, not cracked or broken. Brake pads always sit inside the brake drum. No signs of damage, no oil or grease, no illegal welds. Everybody good with that? So if I'm going to do that, if I'm going to tell the examiner I'm checking this brakes the same way I checked the previous brake system, I cannot do it standing out there. I've got to come in here and identify that you know where the brakes are. All right, so you're my examiner. I'm going to check this brake system exactly the way I checked the brake system on the front axle. Okay. All right, and if I got all of them right up there, I'm going to get all of them right here. If I missed anything up there, I'm going to miss it right here. Okay. Now, 3 systems. What's my next system?
Suspension.
Suspension. You're my examiner. I'm checking this suspension system exactly the same way as I did the previous suspension. All right? And the reason I can do that is because did we not on the front suspension have a control arm mount?
Right.
Yeah.
That led to a control arm.
Exactly.
That led to 2 U-bolts.
Yep.
That led to a shock absorber.
Yep.
That led to an airbag.
Exactly.
All right? Exact same suspension, correct?
Yep.
All right. Everybody good so far? Understand what I'm putting down, picking it up.
Yeah.
So my next system is the wheel assembly. Remember what I did earlier when I called the differences, all right? If you're not 100% sure about that, just inspect it. My inner, outer sidewalls, there's no abrasion, bulges, or cuts, there's no damage. The tires are beaded properly to the rim. My tread wear should be 2/32, should be even tread wear, no mismatched tires. My rims are butted together properly. I've got 2 inches of space between the tires. If I come on out, my rims show no damage. They're not bent, cracked, or broken. There's no illegal welds. My lug nuts are all present and accounted for. No shiny threads, no rust trails. My axle seal, properly mined secured, no missing nuts or bolts, no signs of leaks. Where they at? Valve stems, no signs of damage. Caps are in place. Tires are inflated to the proper level. All right? So just so you know, in order to get credit for the tires, you've got to tell us what the tread depth requirement is. You've got to tell us about the outside sidewalls, and you've got to tell us about the air pressure to get credit for the tires.
Do we got to mention the no mismatched tires too?
Back here, yes.
Okay.
All right. All right. So no mismatched tires means that this can't be a radial and this a bias. This can't be a 22.5 and this be a 24.5. This can be a Goodyear and that can be a Michelin, but they got to be the same kind of tire and the same size tire. Now I can run bias and bias here and radial on the other side, but I cannot put them side by side. All right? Everybody good with that?
Yep.
So right here is another spot that a lot of people miss. So let's cover this pretty good. First of all, let's identify the parts. This is my trailer apron, this big metal plate. All right, everybody good with that?
Yep.
This is my 5th wheel sliding plate. This is my release arm. This is my 5th wheel platform. These are my 5th wheel mounting bolts. All right, everybody good with that?
Yep.
So if I'm doing this inspection, I'm gonna check this apron. There's no signs of damage to the apron. There's no gap between the top of the 5th wheel slide plate and the trailer apron. The 5th wheel slide plate is properly greased. The release arm is in the lock position. The 5th wheel platform is properly mined secure with no signs of damage. The mounting bolts are all present and tight. All right, everybody good with that? Need to do it again?
Yeah, just one more time.
All right, come on up here if you didn't see it. Everybody ready? My trailer apron. No signs of damage to the trailer apron. There's no gap between the apron and the top of the 5th wheel slide plate. The 5th wheel slide plate is properly greased. The release arm is in the lock position. The 5th wheel platform is properly mined secure with no signs of damage. My fifth wheel mounting bolts are all properly mounted, secured, no signs of looseness. All right. Now there's two other things that I haven't called yet. What are they? The locking pin, or the locking jaws, and the what? Now why haven't I called them yet? I can't see them. If you call them from out here, you're not going to get credit for them because you can't see them. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
All right. So do we have to do this axle? No. Not for test purposes, right? Okay. Y'all ready? Y'all good with the fifth wheel area? Everybody good with that? Is this helping or is this hurting?
Helping.
Okay. Somebody here, there's a couple
No,
of
I'm
them
not
on
making
there.
it.
All right,
But I
so
think
once I do that, I need to come underneath the cab or underneath the truck. What I'm doing under here is I'm looking up into the bevel of the fifth wheel. I'm checking that kingpin to make sure it's properly mounted, secured, no signs of damage. That metal bar going across the back side of it, I'm checking that locking jaw to make sure it's around the shank and not around the head. All right, so that right there's the locking jaw. Right there's the kingpin. All right, you see what I'm touching up there? That's the kingpin. That's the locking jaw. All right, everybody good? All right, now if you're like me and you don't want to get up and down a couple times, we need to do some stuff while we're down here, all right? So we're going to check our mud flaps. They're properly mounted, secured. They should be 6 to 8 inches off the ground when the airbags are filled. My reflective tape is clean and present. My brake lights, running lights, four-way flashers, turn signals. They're red in color, not cracked or broken. Reverse lights are white in color, not cracked or broken. All right. If you want to call these PAT lights, that's fine. All right. Parking, emergency, and turn signals. But they're also what? Brake lights. All right. So before I come out, I want to spin around. I want to check my landing gear. Make sure it's properly mounted, secured. It's not bent, cracked, or broken. No missing nuts or bolts. My feet are completely raised. There's no debris on top of the feet. While I'm also under here, I want to look at all my trailer frame rails. All these frame rails completely down the back of the trailer. None of them are bent, cracked, or broken. No signs of damage. All right? Everybody good? All right, I'm coming out. I'm going to check my landing gear crank handle. Make sure it operates properly. Make sure it's in the stowed position. All right. Now before I take off down the side of the trailer, I'm going to stand right here at the landing gear doing an overall view of the side of the trailer. There's no fresh damage. I've got DOT tape that's clean and present down the entire length of the trailer. I'm not missing any rivets on my floor, on my cross members. All right. So here's the thing about rivets, guys. If we're missing a couple of these rivets, we're good. They don't hold weight. All they do is hold these sheets in place. If we're missing any of these rivets, now we've compromised the integrity of the floor. All right, so these are the most important rivets. Everybody good with that? We walk our way on back. We're going to check our pet light, parking light, emergency turn signal. Orange in color, not cracked or broken. Please don't reach behind it and pull on the wires. All right, we're coming on back. Now, back here we can see a lot of things that you can't see on the front. Let me explain what I'm talking about. On the steer axle and the drive axles of this truck, the brakes are covered with dust covers. You can't see them. The fact that you can't see them does not relieve you of your responsibility to inspect them. All right? Everybody good with that?
Yep.
So when we get back here, we're going to check our sliding tandem frame rail. It's properly mounted, secured, no signs of damage. We're going to check our release arm. It's in the lock position. We're going to make sure our locking pins are in the lock position. All right? Once we do that, where are we at? We've got an axle. How many systems?
3.
All right. So if we start inside, we've got air lines, and air lines always run to a
Brake chamber.
brake chambers. Always activate a
Push rod, slack adjuster.
that push rod and slack adjuster always activates a set of,
Brake pad.
and those brake pads are sitting inside a.
Brake drum.
All right. So now you can see it. All right, it's no different than the drum system on a car, just bigger. All right. So remember what your options are. If I want to tell the examiner, I'm going to check these brakes exactly the same way I checked the previous brake system. I can't do it standing out there. I need to identify it. I'm checking these brakes exactly the way I checked the previous brakes. Otherwise, I'm going to check my air lines. They're properly mined secured. There's no abrasion, bulges, or cuts. There's no signs of leaks. My brake chamber, no signs of damage to the brake chamber. Is properly mined secured. No missing nuts or bolts. My push rod and slack adjuster, there's no signs of damage. The pins and the pins and keys are in place. My brake pads are a 1/4 inch thick. They're square, not rounded, not cracked or broken. My brake drum, no signs of damage, no illegal welds, no oil or grease. All right. Just so you know what we're talking about when we say square, not rounded. That brake pad in itself is rounded, is it not?
Yes.
What we're talking about are the upper edges. If these upper edges are rounded off, that means that brake pad is not seated in that drum properly.
Right.
All right? So the brakes are done. What's our next system?
Shocks.
Suspension.
Suspension.
All right? So I've got 2 control arm mounts. I've got 2 control arms. Control arms that lead to a set of what?
U-bolt.
U-bolts. The U-bolts lead to a
Socket absorber.
shock absorber, and behind that shock absorber is a
Airbag.
airbag. All right. So, Mr. Examiner, I'm inspecting this suspension system exactly the way I did the previous suspension system.
Okay.
All right. He's going to go to marking. Otherwise, I'm going to check my control arm mount is properly mined secured, no signs of damage, no missing nuts or bolts. My control arm is properly mined secured, it's not bent, cracked, or broken. My U-bolts are properly mined secured, no signs of looseness. My shock absorber properly mounted bottom and top, no signs of leaks. My airbag properly mined secured, top and bottom, no abrasion, bulges, or cuts, no signs of leaks. All right, everybody good with that?
Yep.
Any questions so far? Mr. Examiner, I'm going to inspect this wheel assembly exactly the way I inspected the previous wheel assembly, with the exception of I'm checking my hub oil seal to make sure it's filled to the proper level, it's properly mined secured, no signs of leaks. All right, see the difference between this one and that one? The requirements, every other requirement still the same. 2 30-second tread depth, even tread wear, no mismatched tires. 2 inches space between the tires. My rims are butted together properly. My rims they're not bent, cracked, or broken, no illegal welds. My lug nuts, no shiny threads or rust trails, which would indicate looseness. My hub seals filled to the proper level, no signs of leaks. My valve stems,
Down low.
no damage, the cap's in place, tires are inflated to the proper level. Everybody good with that?
Yep.